Sega.
In Shinobi, you take on the role of ninja Joe Musashi and have to fight your way through 5 levels in order to defeat the evil Zed organisation, whilst rescuing children captured along the way. This is maximum 1980s arcade action. First, we'll look at the 1987 arcade original running on System 16A or B boards. This I'll be emulating in MAME. Then we'll compare it to the 1989 PC-DOS port, converted by Micro Mosaics Productions on behalf of Sega. I'll run this in DOSBox. The arcade version was released in 1987 on both the Sega System 16A and B boards. It was possible to install the game into many different existing cabinets. This photo shows one example of how the game looked, though there are many different shaped cabinets out there. The game intro sequence starts with the logo spinning into place as your ninja looks around. You're then treated to a short gameplay demo of the first level. Then the bonus stage, where you can win extra lives unless you're caught by an enemy ninja. The high score table is next, then the sequence repeats. When you start, you get your mission briefing to take on Ken O. You then make your way through the streets, throwing shuriken stars to take down all manner of street punks and gun and sword wielding bad guys. Later on, you pick up a gun, which helps. You also collect the required number of captured children before Ken O appears, chucks a fireball at you, then legs it. The second part begins with Marilyn Monroe posters and a guest appearance of Spider-Man. This was in an era before licensing, and anything goes. In each level, you have a one-shot magic attack which is triggered by blowing a tune on a pipe, obviously. After splatting another Spider-Man, you make your way to the boss fight. Here you tackle Ken O. Initially I use my doppelganger magic. It's then a case of dodging his fireballs and smacking him in the face with shurikens until he falls.
Mission 1. Finish. Welcome to bonus stage.
After each boss, you get a bonus stage where you can win an extra life as long as you kill all the approaching ninjas. I obviously fail.
Mission 2.
Mission 2 sees you taking on a helicopter. But before that, you have to traverse the docks. This is again not so easy, so I use some lightning magic here. Note that Joe can use swords, kicks and other attacks should enemies get too close for shurikens. And here I die, because I'm useless. Now, enjoy a minute of the arcade version without me talking over it. The PC-DOS port arrived in 1989, converted by Micro Mosaics Productions on behalf of Sega. The DOS version opens with a more tired-looking ninja and a little tune, before you're shown some gameplay footage where the computer plays badly, then you see the high score table. Unlike the arcade version, the DOS version goes further with its demos, showing you each of the bosses in the game. Spoilers! Some of these are heavily reduced from the arcade version, such as this row of statues, which has several rows at the same time in the arcade version. Some of the bosses the computer totally fails at, such as here. And the final boss looks like something from the Where the Wild Things Are book. When you start the game, and assuming you run DOSBox not at maximum speed, you'll be shown the map, which seems to hold for a long time, before setting out on the streets. The animation here is much more choppy with simplified enemy attacks. It's also a bit clunky, on keyboard at least, as you have to hold down the J key whilst jumping in order to move to the higher platform. The second part again follows the arcade, but I was disappointed in the lack of Spider-Man. Instead you get some blue ninjas. You start to realise that the game is quite awkward to move about in, and resort to using magic. The DOS version only has the doppelganger's attack magic, no tornadoes or lightning effects here. Eventually you fight Ken O, except he seems to have largely forgotten to attack very often, so is a much easier kill than the arcade original. Here's the bonus stage, and whilst it's faithful to the arcade, your hand stops moving left and right when you throw stars, meaning it's quite easy to get defeated. Mission 2 is again semi-faithfully recreated. It's here where the slow pace of firing stars, along with the clunky movement and getting caught on scenery, makes this game much less fun than the arcade. Adding to the difficulty are the random deaths, where just touching someone a few times causes Joe to keel over. So once again, I die in this second mission. Ah well. Here's a minute of the PC-DOS port so you can enjoy the bleeps and bloops, as they forgot to add a soundtrack. It's almost a moot point doing a comparison at the pixel level, as both versions are pretty different. First, let's compare the title screen. Here's the cool looking ninja on the arcade version, and wiping across you can see him age into a much more tired looking guy on the DOS version. And here's the start of Mission 1 in the arcade. Wiping across to the DOS port, you can see many elements were recreated here, but it's still much more of an approximation. Then again, this was an era where developers had to recreate graphics in home ports just by looking at the arcade version in action. Let's put both versions head to head, across several situations in the game.
Welcome to bonus stage.
The arcade original is a pretty playable, if not stunningly pretty looking arcade game that would go on to start a franchise that continues to this day. The DOS port includes most elements of the arcade, but feels a bit more clunky and hard to play. If you enjoyed this comparison of Shinobi, then give it a like. or subscribe, ring the bell and so on to be notified when I've uploaded something new. And join me next time as we go back into the sky.